could I get a motion to open the July 2024 zoning board meeting?
So moved over.
Second, Brian.
Okay, almost had you.
Mhm.
Great. So before we do the opening, or actually without hearing any objections, the meeting is open. Hearing none, all good. Oh, do we need to do roll call for open? Okay, can I get a roll call vote, please?
Michael Spall,
Present.
Ryan Granoff,
Present.
Olga Montez,
Present.
Marlene Cheatham,
Present.
and acting chair Kyle Aberuzek.
Present. Thank you. All right, now before we begin the official spiel, we'd like to invite trustee Fritchie up, and Karen, I don't know if you're coming up also. Okay, here for pictures. Okay, great.
Here for moral support.
Are you going to explain what's going on, or do you want me to?
Yeah, I'll,
Okay,
real
cool.
quick. So I've known Marlene, what, a couple of years, Marlene?
Oh, yeah, two.
Yeah, 2 years. So we go back a little bit. And so great to see you do the great job you did here. Anybody out in the audience, Ms. Cheatham is stepping down. She's done a yeoman's job here as far as being the chair of the zoning board. And the Board of Trustees has a proclamation for you. So if you would kindly join me up here.
I'm gonna beat all of you.
That's okay.
Oh, did I say that?
You're dressed for the occasion.
You did, but we'll. we didn't.
So in honor of Marlene Cheatham, whereas the Board of Trustees of the Village of Austin recognizes individuals that have shown exemplary commitment and dedication to the community. And we wish to acknowledge outstanding service that contributes to the quality of life in Austin and beyond. And whereas Marlene Cheatham truly exemplifies the qualities of a leader. She first took office as a trustee on the village board in 2005, where she served in a variety of roles, including deputy mayor and acting mayor, before the end of her last term in 2012. During her time on the board, Marlene played an invaluable role in crafting legislation and policy, including numerous changes to the village code in furtherance of more comprehensive and equitable zoning, chief among them crafting and adopting the village's 2009 comprehensive plan, the community's first since 1959. Marlene's service extends past municipal government. She serves as chair of the executive committee of IFCA Housing Network, as president of the board of directors for the Clearview School, and on the board of Ossining Public Library Foundation, in testament to her deep passion for learning and housing, both of which are critical components in improving quality of life for families everywhere. And whereas Marlene Cheatham joined the Village Zoning Board of Appeals in 2019, shortly thereafter was appointed to the position of chair. During Marlene's tenure on the ZBA, she has deliberated on hundreds of applications and led the process with integrity and thoughtfulness, for which she is widely known. Her contribution on the ZBA as well as on the Board of Trustees secured her Westchester Municipal Planning Federation highly competitive Citizen Planner Award in May 2024. This well-deserved recognition underscores Marlene's wide-reaching reputation as a public servant who gives generously of her time, effort, energy, and effort, not to mention her enormous heart. And whereas, the last one, today we honor Ossining resident Marlene Cheatham as she completes her service as chair of the Village of Ossining Zoning Board of Appeals, and thank her wholeheartedly for her dedicated work on behalf of the people of Austin. Now, therefore, I, Rika Levin, Mayor of the Village of Austin, on behalf of the Board of Trustees, do hereby congratulate Marlene on her decades of exceptional service to the greater Austin community, and do hereby declare July 10th, 2024 as Marlene Cheatham Day in the Village of Austin. Signed by the mayor.
Both of you. Stand facing, we'll stand facing here. I'll get the. the zoning board. You didn't see Jack. Speech.
Nice.
You got it.
I guess I should start by saying, thank you. Thank you. And thank all of you. This kind of came as something, and I know Karen has said she has not accepted my resignation, but I've also said when I don't show up in September, she'll figure it out. I just, my time here has been wonderful. I will absolutely probably be on Zoom, maybe, for a couple of the meetings just to see how things are going and to say hi every now and then. It was a hard decision for me to say it was time. But I have some other things that are more pressing that are going to take up a lot of my time moving forward. I absolutely will say thank you to each and every one of you. I look forward to seeing you in the community. And no, I don't know about your zoning issue on your street. I'm sorry, I can't help you. But I do cherish this, and thank you so much. And I look forward to my last meeting.
Marlene Cheatham Day, write it down. All right, and with that,
50 cents will get me not even an ice cream anymore. I don't know.
good luck. And with that, good evening and welcome to the July 2024 Zoning Board of Appeals regular monthly meeting for the Village of Ossining. This is a public hearing that is quasi judicial. We're using a hybrid format for today's meeting. The public was invited to attend either in person or virtual via Zoom. During the public hearing, we will always invite in-person attendees to speak first and then virtual attendees. This is to keep things efficient. In order to participate, please do the following. Members of the public attending online may use the raise hand feature at the appropriate time if you'd like to make a comment. Those attending via telephone can press *9. The meeting host will see that your hand is raised or that you've pressed *9, and they will unmute those waiting one at a time so you can speak. Comments may also be emailed in real time during the hearing to the Village of Ossining Planning Department via plan@villageofossining.org. The meeting will be recorded and a transcript of the meeting will be available at a later date. Quick ground rules. In order to keep this meeting orderly and ensure we get a clear recording, please follow these ground rules. When you're given the opportunity to speak, please state your name and address. That's really important. If you're speaking during the public hearing, please limit your comments to the matter which is the subject of the hearing, i.e. don't go off topic. If any speaker is inappropriate, they will be immediately cut off and access removed. And if you need to have a conversation or take a call, please go down the hall so it doesn't echo into the room. And with that, if we could get a roll call of the board, please. Oh, I did that by the vote. You did that by the vote. Great. With us, we also have Maddie Zahach, our assistant village manager. We have Joseph Agostinelli, our building inspector for the village. Jamie Kane, I believe, is online. She's our board secretary. Linda Whitehead, our land use attorney, is here. And that's it.
Karen's not on?
No, Taryn's not on.
Oh.
All right. First on the agenda, I can't vote on this. Or no, I was here. Could I get a motion to approve the minutes from last month's meeting?
So moved.
Second, right.
If there are no objections for those that attended that meeting, the minutes will be approved. Hearing none, minutes are approved. All right. On to our first business of the board. All right, so first up on new business of the board is ZBA 05-2024. This is for 28 Donald Lane. The applicant is seeking an amendment to a previously granted variance for side yard setback for legalization of a garage and breezeway addition. Do we have anyone here to speak on this? Great. You want to just come up and state your name and address?
My name is John Matthews. I'm representing 28 Donald Lane. First and foremost, Madam Chairperson, members of the board, thank you for your service. It's well appreciated. But I'm going to go back. This was a variance, which we talked about. It was issued, and there was a discrepancy between a plot plan and my legal survey. And the discrepancy was actually 1.7 on one side and 3.75, which when you calculate feet into inches, it becomes 2¼ inches.
Great.
So I'm here to request a variance for 2¼ inches,
Great.
both sides.
An additional 2¼
Additional.
An
inches.
additional,
Yeah.
correct.
Just so that everything lines up. So just to recap, so that we understand, we previously granted the variance. the plan and the survey didn't match. Now they match.
Correct,
It's a little bit outside by 2¼ inches.
correct.
Okay, great. Are there any questions from members of the board?
It was a good catch, Joe.
All right, could I get a motion to,
In front of you.
could I get a motion to open the public hearing?
Motion to open the public hearing, Brian.
Second.
Second.
Seconded by Mike. Okay, great. With that, do we need to vote on opening and closing? Yeah, we
You
do.
can do.
Objection, great.
Is
If,
it?
without hearing any objections, we will open the public hearing. Hearing none, the public hearing is now open. Is there anyone here to speak on this application other than the applicant? All right, could I get a motion to close the public hearing?
What? I gotta ask anybody.
Oh, is there anybody online to speak about 28 Donald Lane?
You raise your virtual hand. You're in the Zoom audience. Okey doke.
I see none. So could I get a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Seconded, Brian.
Yeah, Marlene and Brian. And if there are no objections, we will close the public hearing. Hearing none, the public hearing is now closed. So can we run through the 5 factors?
So, and again, remember, you'd already granted a variance, they needed an amended variance for an additional little over 2 inches. So the first factor is whether an undesirable change will be produced in the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to nearby property by granting of the area variance.
I'm only going to speak to the additional because we've already spoke to the previous granting. I'm going to say no. 2¼ inches. No one spoke against it. Minimal.
Yes, ma'am.
Not those. You know, just standing with a ruler, can't even. And even then. Whether the benefit sought by the applicant can be achieved by some method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than an area variance.
No, it's already done.
They could make them dig it up and start again, but I think in this case.
That's not feasible. It'd be too expensive.
But I remember, I believe this originally was a legalization.
Yeah.
It is.
So it's really just the reason why they hear back is just for confusion of some numbers.
Plans with each survey.
Yeah.
Whether the requested area variance is substantial,
I'm going to say no.
No, no.
whether the proposed variance will have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district.
I'm gonna say so. I'm gonna say that neighbors probably didn't even notice.
Whether the alleged difficulty was self-created, which would be relevant, but not necessarily would preclude the granting of variance.
It's not determinative. I will say yes, it was an oversight, but it's not going to probably sway the decision anyway.
That completes your review of the 5 factors.
All right, after going through the 5 factors, it feels like the board is inclined to vote in the approvative. So could I get a motion to approve the ZBA 05/2024 variances for 1.7 feet for the one side yard setback and 3.75 feet for both side yards?
Motion to approve.
What'd you say?
I said correct.
Oh, yeah, correct.
So moved, Olga.
Seconded, Brian.
All right. Can we get a roll call vote, please?
Sure can. Olga Montez. Aye. Brian Granoff.
Aye.
Michael Spall.
Aye.
Marlene Cheatham.
Aye.
Chair Aberizik.
Aye. All right, and with that, it looks like you're all set. Joe, does he need to receive anything from you? Because this was already,
No, just a resolution
Just the
for this
resolution.
additional variance.
okay.
We're good, thank you.
We're good. Thank you.
Appreciate your time.
That's-
Bye-bye.
Good night. Have a good night.
All right, next up on the agenda is ZBA 14/2024. This is for 20 Iroquois Road. Applicant is seeking variances for side yard and rear yard setbacks for proposed rear deck. Hello,
Good evening.
just state your name and address, please.
My name is Jonathan, for 20 Iroquois Road. First, good evening, board members, and congrats, Madam Chairperson. So I'm here on the behalf of the Berry family for living at 20 Iroquois Road and their project, which is a rear deck project. Maybe. I apologize. Okay, all right, I'll keep going.
We all have copies of it. already,
Okay,
so
great.
This is just for the audio.
Okay, so the Berries have lived here for a number of years. They actually just welcomed their first child a couple months ago, which necessitates the need for a larger outdoor entertaining space in the rear of their house. So if you're familiar with the site, yep, that aerial view. Their house is on the west side of Iroquois Road. The site slopes down towards the west, towards the rear, about 15 to 20 feet. And in the rear, on the west of the house is a densely wooded area. And if you scroll down, we can see the rear photo of the existing house.
One, right?
Yeah, and one more. So our proposed project is an elevated deck off of the rear of that house, and it extends about 12 feet from the house, and it's about 400 square feet. And we can see that on the site plans.
I got it on the plans.
Here,
right?
here.
Yes, yeah. Yep, so if we just,
Blow up that.
yeah, if we can blow up that, that'll be helpful. Thank you.
Have a look at this one.
He's also got, or they have the renderings on there too.
Yeah. So again, the rear deck is an elevated deck off the first floor. It projects 12 feet from the existing house and then another 3.5 feet for the stairs. It's about 400 square feet in total. We're requesting a rear yard variance of 4.8 feet and a side yard variance of 2.6 feet. The side yard variance is a product of the house being existing non-conforming on the north side. The house and the concrete walkway and porch is already encroaching on the setback. So therefore, when we add the deck, we will be increasing the nonconformity. And in the rear, the 4.8 rear yard variance is mostly due to the stair, so it's not the bulk of the deck. But again, that rear yard is facing a densely wooded area and no neighbors.
And there's no room for the deck on the left side because of the driveway, right?
That is correct. Everything else is existing. We're just building the elevated deck. And then I think if we scroll to the elevations. Yep. So that's an existing porch already off the rear of the house. So if we look at the elevations again, the site is sloping towards the west, towards the rear, which is why we have an elevated deck on the first floor. The 12 feet in depth we deem as a comfortable and very usable space for seating for up to 6 to 8 people, and also dining space with table and grill for 6 to 8 people. And when we looked at other methods of achieving this outdoor area, a patio at grade level wasn't really feasible, again, because we'd be adding impervious coverage and doing a lot of grading because of the slope. And it was also require a staircase down to grade, which is not very convenient for elderly parents or a young child, et cetera. So again, I believe that the 12 feet in depth and the raised deck is very suitable for this type of program that we're requesting. I also, before I forget, we have letters of support from the neighbors that if the board members would like, I could pass around. But I'm happy to answer any questions or go through the balancing points.
Were those letters of support submitted?
They were required by the,
I've seen those as part of the record, so if you could send them to us.
Okay, yeah. They were only recently acquired by the neighbors.
Tell us what address it's from.
Sure. Would you like me to read them? It's 15 Iroquois Road, 22 Iroquois Road, and 17 Iroquois Road,
I'm sorry, 15, 17, and which?
22. Yeah.
Our clerk has indicated that they weren't submitted, so when you have a chance, can you please?
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you.
All right. Do any members of the board have questions for the applicant? From what I'm taking from your zoning board worksheet, you're looking for two variances. You're looking for the rear yard and side yard setback variances,
Correct.
mainly because of the stairs encroaching on the backyard.
That's correct.
And the deck is aligned with the house and the current deck, which is already existing, non-conforming and encroaching.
That's
So you're
correct.
just extending that.
Mhm.
Last chance, no board
So
questions?
I do for Jill. And she took down the picture, but on the picture, there are posts that will be holding up the new deck. Are there any issues with that moving?
Oh, I think above you're referring to, right? On the plan?
Yes.
Oops.
You're talking about the actual footings that are.
Yes.
Yeah, I think they're on page 3,
3.
drawing
5.
number, yeah.
No, go to, is it? Go down, go down, go down. Go down.
Yep, so on the left, I believe, are the footings.
Right. So you have basically on the deck itself, 1, 2, 3,
Three,
4,
four.
5,
Mhm.
and obviously for the staircase. I mean, normally on a slope, I mean, structurally, you probably would want to have something on it to have like a wider base
Okay.
to be able to keep it stable.
It looks like they had that in the,
Yeah, I could,
in the
I'd have to
rendering.
see the other ones.
if you go down. We're seeing those. Yeah, right.
Right.
Like, yeah,
Those are 14-inch diameter. I mean, normally the 14 inches would be fine. I mean, I would, I would suggest, I mean, you're the design, you're doing the
Yeah, I
design.
work with the architect, yes, I'm part of
I
the
mean,
office.
normally, usually, on something you'd have as a slope, you do 14 inches with a wider base, like a Bigfoot base.
Mhm.
So it would be something probably on the review that would be a suggestion to do, but
It doesn't really relate to the variance.
it doesn't relate to that.
Could be that the new deck is being built on the existing piling built from the old deck.
I mean, it also depends on what the soil is. If there's a lot of rock ledge there, they can pin to that. So
Well, this is currently, there's nothing where that deck currently is. It's just.
Well, I thought there was a replacement deck.
No,
No.
they're built-
No.
they have a tiny, it looks like a tiny porch on the back.
yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. Gotcha.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that thing.
That covered area is an existing porch, correct?
All right, anyone else? Great. So could I get a motion to open the public hearing?
So with Brian.
Second. Second, Mark,
Marlene doesn't often get to second.
I don't.
And if there are no objections, we will open the public hearing. Hearing none, it is now open. Is there anyone from the public online or in person to speak on 20 Iroquois Road? All right, I see none. Can I get a motion to close the public hearing?
Motion to close over.
Seconded Brian.
Hearing no objections, we will close the public hearing. Hearing none, the public hearing is now closed. Could we run through the 5 factors?
Whether an undesirable change will be produced in the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to nearby properties will be created by the granting of the area variance.
I always speak first. I'm trying not to.
Everybody-
Certainly it'll improve the value of the property and the character of the neighborhood. And if the letters of support read as, I think they might, which we'll wait and see. Obviously, the neighbors agree.
I agree with Mike.
And there's no neighbor to the rear.
It's
There's
all
no neighbor to
forested.
the rear,
Yeah.
so.
All the changes are occurring behind the house,
Right.
so
Mhm.
there's nothing visible from the front as well. So I agree.
Even if I was like a neighbor on the side, I would still feel like it's an improvement. If I could see through to their backyard, so.
Yeah.
Okay. Whether the benefits sought by the applicant can be achieved by some method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than an area variance.
No, I brought that up earlier. The only available space would be to the left-hand side of the house. Obviously, that's being used for a driveway and went to the deck. So leave you really well.
I'll agree with Mike.
whether the requested area variance is substantial.
I'm gonna say no, because only the stairs encroach a little bit on the rear yard setback and the side yard setback. The property already encroaches existing non-conforming, and so they're just extending it along that existing non-conforming line.
Whether the proposed variance will have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district.
Unless I know, we haven't heard any, and it doesn't look like there would be any.
Whether the alleged difficulty was self-created, which considerations shall be relevant to the decision, but shall not preclude the granting of variance.
This one, I'm gonna say yes, because they could make it a little shorter to reduce that rear yard, but they would still need a side yard, so I say yes, but it's not determinative.
I agree.
I agree. I could say that they didn't have to do it at all.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Well, that's all we.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, based on the 5 factors, it seems the board would be inclined to approve, so could I get a motion to approve ZBA 17 or ZBA 14, 2024?
Motion to approve. Olga.
Seconded, Rodney.
All right, could we get a roll call vote, please?
Hey, Olga Montez,
Aye.
Brian Granoff,
Aye.
Michael Spall,
Aye.
Marlene Cheatham,
Aye.
and Chair Aberrizak.
Aye. All right, looks like you're all approved. You just need to wait for
Do not-
notification from Joe's office
Mhm.
before starting work, and they'll send that out. How long does that take, Joe?
Once we get the resolution,
Once we get the resolution? Okay.
Sign,
Okay.
sign.
to be
Sign,
signed. but-
usually a month. Can I,
Understood.
I'll come in and.
Yeah,
Great.
we'll follow up with Joe just regarding next steps as well for any other boards. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, next up is ZBA 17, 2024, 70A Croton Avenue. Applicant is seeking area variances for the rear yard setback, side yard setback, maximum building coverage percentage and minimum parking aisle. And as a reminder, this had previously come before the board, and 3 of the 4 variances were previously granted, and if I'm not mistaken, those 3 variances are identical and those are not changing.
That's correct.
Just one additional variance.
That's correct.
Could you explain the additional variance?
Yes, the section 270-38-4, if I remember correctly. Oh, I'm sorry. I was trying, I was going to answer this question.
No, sorry, that's.
Mr. Acting Chair, Madam Chair, Council, Assistant Village Manager, Building Inspector, members of the board. My name is Al Piro, and I represent the applicant in this particular case, which is AF Croton Avenue Corporation, which are the owners of 78 Croton Avenue, Austin, New York, which is a 23,060 square foot mixed use building to be constructed in the event we receive all appropriate approvals. Would you like me to go through the whole matter or just discuss that
Well,
one?
question, is there a way to approach since they're the exact same?
I mean, I'll just point out. Yeah, so let me just point out for the record, with your permission, Mr. Acting Chairperson, we have submitted an affirmation by both myself, which addresses some of the case law, et cetera, which is not evidence, but so I always submit that as part of an explanation of how we met the 5 factors which you are balancing this evening. In addition, we submitted an affirmation by the property owner, which also addresses each of those factors. But I think more importantly is that the board has as part of its record a prior variance which it issued back in
2022.
2022. And nothing has changed regarding those. I would just point out that the property has had quite a stop-start or start-stop history, depending on how you want to view it. And fortunately, with the work of the village, the council, the building department, the planning department, the assistant village manager, the architect, not so much by the lawyers, but we just pretty much put everything together and submitted it. A great deal of work was done by the municipality, very frankly, by a self-created hardship that the property owner created in this particular case. So we're here to clean up the history and to hopefully get a application approved by the board so that we can get back on the proper road to deal with the building department and get the project built. That's a summary. As far as the fourth variance, the code section, which I started to discuss, is section, I think I have it correctly, 270-30A4, which requires a 24-foot wide parking aisle, and we have 23 feet 16 inches, which requires a variance of less than an inch. It's 0.84 inches.
Less than a foot.
Yes,
than a
yeah, excuse me, less than a foot, yes. That's the whole application.
All right. So for the benefit of the public and the board, again, the first three variances that are requested, which are building coverage percentage, rear yard setback, and side yard setback were previously approved. There's no change
Right.
to what they were requesting. But the parking aisle width, I'm assuming that's ingress and egress.
It is.
Yeah. Supposed to be 24 feet wide. It is being proposed at 23.16 feet wide. I'll convert those feet to inches when we discuss, but do any of the board members have any questions?
Just to clarify, the variances are identical, but the prior approval is expired.
Right.
That's
Okay.
correct.
That's why it
Yes.
needs to be reapproved.
Yes. Thank you. Thanks, council.
Which we've done before. Does anybody have questions on the parking aisle?
I do to the attorney.
Okay.
Me?
Yes. In doing this, are we to look at the prior approval separately from the parking, and do they need to be separated when we talk about the approvals, going through the factors?
I think you need to. It can be, you've already determined to grant the prior approvals, but you can restate sort of the reasons for granting them and address all of them.
Great.
And again, just the side yard variance, this zone only requires a side yard setback when it abuts a residential district. So the side yard setback variance only applies to one side.
All right. Okay.
I do have one question.
Yes.
The parking aisle. Would that affect the type of vehicle? Using that, Maddie, can you?
Yeah. Bring the plans, yeah. I think it's very helpful for everybody to see where these columns are.
It's like 3 or 4 columns.
There you go. So,
It's one of these squiggly
crazy plans,
excuse me.
there you go. There we go. Give me
Just-
1 second.
Yeah.
Okay, so where the red is, that was the changes in the plans, and it basically shows that at the end of 3 of those parking spaces, there's 3 new structural, there's new steel columns. And they stick out a little bit.
And it's those dotted black things, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
And it's, they actually don't affect the parking space widths, which is what could potentially affect what could park there. So it's only the fire. And that's in those sections, those areas.
All right. Anyone other than Marlene and Olga? All right. Can I get a motion to open the public hearing?
Motion to open.
Seconded, Brian.
All right, hearing no objections, we will open the public hearing. Hearing none, it is, the hearing's now opened. Is there anybody here to speak on 78 Croton Avenue? Or online? All right, can I get a motion to close the public hearing
Motion to close the public hearing, Brian.
Second, Marlene.
with confidence? If there are no objections, the public hearing is now closed.
She's gonna make all the motions.
Yeah. Hearing none, the public hearing is now closed. So the variance being requested is 10.08 inches. Very specific, or 10 and 8/10, 800, whatever it is, 8/100ths of an inch. Could we go through the 5 factors for everything altogether?
Whether an undesirable change will be produced from the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to nearby properties will be created by the granting of the area variance.
I say no. It's on the inside.
If anything, it's going to accelerate the work to help the community look better and not have an empty building in a main prominent, thoroughfare.
All of my original comments for the 3 variances are in the 2022 notes, so I'm not going to comment on any of those.
Right, I was gonna say that just, we go back, on the other 3 variances, some of the board's prior findings were that, again, these arose from the deck being built over what was previously an open parking area. And the board at that time felt that was a positive change. It would provide an area for the residents to gather. And the neighbors would also no longer be looking at the parking lot. It would be more aesthetically pleasing than looking at the parking lot. And it was no new impervious surface because it was already gonna be impervious as a parking lot. So those were some of the reasons that were also given for those 3 variances previously.
Take us to 2.
Whether the benefits sought can be achieved by some method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than the area variance.
I'm going to say no, because as part of the settlement, this is one of the requirements to keep the building structurally sound.
Yes, the columns are absolutely required.
Yeah. It's safety. I'm going to say no.
And I'm going to piggyback on the fact that we had already approved the prior approvals for the other 3 variances. And I would again like to restate what was in the prior that we had stated prior with the prior board, that we continue to keep that in mind. So,
And in the previous, the board had stated that in light of the dimensional requirements for the NC2 district and the narrow dimensions of the property, there was no alternative to the requested variances that would achieve the same results. 3 is whether the requested area variances are substantial.
Yes, and I think we said they were substantial last time, but we approved the reason that they were needed. So it kind of was a moot point.
They were, the ZBA did not consider them substantial in light of the circumstances as otherwise described.
and with the new parking columns, it is not substantial.
Whether proposed variance will have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district.
You can't get worse than it is now, so I'm going to say no.
And again, previously, the board had determined to be no adverse effect resulting from the granting of these variances. It's expected that the deck would result in an overall positive change.
As a resident and landlord in the neighborhood, I know a lot of the neighbors and my tenants, they all are always asking, what's going on with that building? So I think it's a good thing for the community to move forward.
And lastly is whether the alleged difficulty was self-created, which consideration is relevant to the decision, but shall not preclude the granting of the variance.
I'm going to say yes, and I think we previously talked about this, but the applicant also stated that it was yes, but again, I don't think it's determinative in this case, personally.
And the prior decision said it was self-created because the applicant chose to construct the deck. The board very specifically did not condone the applicant's actions, reminds the applicant that the land use requirements established in the village are there for a reason and he is expected to adhere to them. Regardless, the board does not find this factor determinative in its decision.
And I think that should
Well-
stay, that should remain.
We're gonna, I'm gonna actually,
Yes.
we're gonna repeat the reasons. So when you're making this decision on those 3 variances, is making it for all the same reasons that were stated in 2022.
That is correct. And I think that should be like bolded in red. But I also have to say for the parking structure or the parking columns, it is not self-created. I think that was part of one of the reasons why we're able to move forward with this.
Yeah, it's the deck
process.
issue that was self-created. These are required because of that, which is why I said it was self-created, but again, it doesn't matter. It seems based on that the board is inclined to approve. So could I get a motion to approve ZBA 17/2024?
So move, Brian.
Second, Marlene.
All right. Could we get a roll call vote, please?
Okay, Michael Spall,
Aye.
Marlene Cheatham,
Aye.
Ryan Granoff,
Aye.
Olga Montez. Hi. Chair Aberrizek.
Aye. So this application is approved. The three prior variances as approved that were out of date are now good again. And the variance for the parking columns for 10.08 inches for the parking or the parking aisle are approved. And just wait for Joe to communicate with you on the variance.
We've been there before, yes. I would like to just say thank you. I want to start with the assistant village manager who has helped guide the applicant and this firm through an arduous process. I want to thank Linda, without whom this could not have happened. Both this, the settlement, other matters. Linda, you know what I'm talking about. Thank you so much. Mr. Trustee, I'd like to thank the board for everything it's done. And I'll make sure that hopefully in the future, we can
Never have this happen.
have some what we call preventive law. How's that?
And I think the community looks forward to work getting done on this building.
We all live
Of
here,
course,
so.
With the approved plans.
And I want to, and I get it, and hopefully we won't have any more issues going forward. I also want to introduce you to Mike Tui, who is a member of our firm and just joined us and agreed to put on a suit tonight. He didn't want me to feel bad. So anyway, thank you, Linda.
Thank
you.
All right.
Thank you all very much. Congratulations.
He sees us too much.
And you haven't changed.
So for continuing business of the board, we have ZBA 08/2024 for 133 State Street. This is an application.
Can I just say something? JB only had one thing on tonight and he's leaving
It's summer and he didn't even talk.
and he didn't say anything?
Wow.
We had to argue about who would speak. So
Okay.
Wait.
he said,
I-
you shorter, you go.
It's last meeting.
Oh, I'm sorry. We're gonna miss you. Thank you. Really.
All right. This applicant's hand is raised. I think they're online. So next up is ZBA 08/2024, 133 State Street. This is an application that's been before us a few times in the past few months. Applicant is seeking approval for proposed construction of a two-family house with front yard, side yard.
The other person there. It's the architect. It's the architect.
Okay. Front yard, side yard, both side yards, rear yard, maximum building coverage, maximum impervious surface coverage, and maximum number of stories permitted. And they also require a parking variance for proposed parking in the front yard.
Which is the additional variance.
Which is the additional. variance.
Yes.
Good evening, members of the board, acting chair, Madam Chair, Stephen Venerusso here on behalf of the applicant for the premises located at 133 State Street. I'm also joined tonight by Mr. Eduardo Gallarza, who is the project's architect. Thank you, Mr. Gallarza. So we did appear before the board several months ago. There was a supplemental submission that was sent in addressing a few of the items discussed, namely accurately reflecting and showing the board the building height relative to the two adjacent parcels, the two structures on those parcels. Secondly, cleaning up some of the confusion regarding the common area on the plans. And lastly, Mr. Gallarza did submit a letter dated May 28th, attempting to just kind of clarify the parking and kind of where we see this and just some clarity for the board. With that, I would welcome any questions that the board has. Obviously, I did present this last time we were here. I do just want to point out, as it relates to the revisions of the plans having to do with the common area. I did speak to the applicant, who did want to just make it crystal clear for the board that that area is essentially, as it's reflected on the plans now, for storage. This applicant has built multifamily homes in the past. He has several properties in New Jersey as well, and he builds a quality structure. And part of that is kind of trying to figure out what makes sense for the tenants. This tenant storage area is meant for bicycles, winter storage, stuff like that. You know, so that those items are not stored outside. It makes for more sightly property. It makes for a more attractive property for tenants and attracting people to the property. So with that, I would welcome any questions that the board has in connection with that submission for either myself or Mr. Gallarza.
Yes, thank you so much. My question has to do with a question I asked before. Even though you've changed the name to tenant storage area, I find it interesting that you need a bathroom in there since everyone who's going to be using it has a home in that same building. And the utility, I would love a utility sink in my garage, but a bathroom seems like, you know.
Yeah, that was placed in, again, kind of just thinking it's again, mainly a storage area. It is kind of a convenience for the tenants if they go in there. I don't know that it's a necessity of it, but it was something that the applicant thought. Again, he's used it other projects, similar, structures, 2-family homes, to have it there. Something I could certainly speak with the applicant about, as I don't think it's vital to the project, but it is something that he has used in the past on similar structures, and tenants have liked it. So that's why it was included.
And we previously discussed that it's a 2-family home, so the parking can be in tandem because a family can park one car in front of their other, just in case.
Right, but the variance.
But the
that was
variance-
Identified is that they're showing 2 of those parking spaces in the front yard.
Got it.
Yes.
There's a variance.
Got it.
Yeah, the intention was that 2 of the cars would be parked in the garage, and then the 2 cars in the rear, each dwelling area having the 2 spaces, one in front of the other.
Can I just ask the question, that space that's the storage there, how do tenants access that? Is that from within the building, or they have to go outside and go back in? Because I don't see a staircase or anything.
Staircase into it.
How do they get in there?
Mr.
Other than that-
Gallarza, do you, perhaps Eduardo can jump on that. The access to the that storage area. And is he muted?
Is it
Eduardo?
only exterior access, not the interior within the building?
Looking at that plan, it appears the only door is from the outside.
It's from outside in.
I believe that's correct. I just, Eduardo, can you hear us? I don't know if his screen is frozen. Eduardo, can you hear us? Let me just see if I can message him to, in one moment. But I believe that's correct, that the entrance is.
Your meeting ID followed by pound.
We hear you.
Eduardo, can you hear us?
You have not entered any numbers. Please re-enter your meeting ID followed by pound.
His mic is on, but he doesn't hear.
His mic is on
You have
mute.
not entered any numbers. Please
I've had that
re-enter
before,
your
so-
meeting ID followed by pound.
Just the eyes staring back.
Goodbye.
Eduardo, can you hear us?
Stephen, I don't know if you're willing to do this, but if you want to call him, you can put your phone up to your mic and we'll be able to hear him.
Yeah, if you give me one moment.
Enter meeting ID followed
He's
by
trying
pound.
to-
He's trying to,
No, I know, but if he keeps failing, that's one way to make it easy.
I apologize. Give me one moment.
There's Tech Road again.
I don't know why he's not connected.
but we could hear him dialing the phone.
But he can't hear
Enter
us.
your participant ID followed by pound. Otherwise.
Right,
just
we
press
could hear him
pound to
even pressing
continue.
in the number, so I know we could hear him.
You have joined the
Yeah, he just
meeting as
can't
an
hear us.
He
attendee
just-
and
he
will be
just can't
muted
hear us.
throughout the meeting.
So while we're waiting on him, that's my understanding is that's the act. Eduardo, can you hear us?
Mute your microphone. You can press star 6. to
And he
unmute.
doesn't need to unmute because we can already hear him or you're gonna get feedback.
Eduardo, can you hear us?
Yes, I'm on the phone. I'm sorry.
Okay,
There you
Yeah.
go.
we can hear you now. So the question was, I just wanted to, I thought you were in the best position. I was talking about the common area, the access to that common area for the tenants.
Oh, the access is gonna be from the outside. You can
Only
see
from the outside.
only from the outside. There's, yeah.
So, my question is, did the only thing that changed on this was the name that you put on the plans?
No, the other thing that
The
was,
bar out.
Wait a
You
minute,
took
that's
the
not-
bar out, but
that's- I'm
put a bar
sorry,
back
that's
in.
not the updated plan.
6-3. Do we have one? new
Oh, yeah,
one?
no, that's okay. That's okay. Yeah, I'm sorry. That's okay. Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. Yeah, I see
So,
that.
so from all the questions we had, you changed the name and you took out the bar.
Yes.
Okay.
yeah, I spoke to the applicant as far as the bar, that was, I think more of a placeholder put in there. Again, this is solely for storage area. He intends on tenants using it for bicycles, putting in some sort of bicycle storage rack, long-term winter storage, to get, tenants that in the past at other properties he have requested that they can store winter coats outside of their apartments during the summer months. Whatever is convenient for the tenants for storage purposes. That's what the area is intended for. I think, I think inadvertently he had, caused some confusion with the bar being in there, but that was removed, just to kind of clarify that and make
It
it.
wasn't just the
absolutely
bar
clear.
being in there, it was what you said at the last meeting and how he was gonna use it for himself.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, say that again?
It wasn't just that the bar was there, it's, you had indicated at the last meeting that it was an area that the owner was gonna use for his own purposes. So it wasn't that the bar was there, it's what was stated at the meeting.
So, respectfully, I would just say that it wasn't that he was going to use it. I don't know if there was ever conversations with the architect. The landlord does not live.
We were told that, and it's in the minutes in the transcript, that the owner would be using it when he came to visit or when he was up here. And that is why we had all the questions.
Yeah, I know, I understand. I think that was misinformed. The tenant does not live in Ossining. I'm sorry, the landlord has no intention of being at the property, other than to obviously address tenant issues. But after speaking with him, he reiterated that fact that this is tenant storage. That's what it's meant for. That's what it will be, solely. And he's happy to be held to that. However, the board would deem that possible or necessary. That's what it's intended for.
I do have two. Okay, first, what is the square footage of that area? I mean, it's showing 21 feet in one direction.
Yeah, I can tell you in a minute.
I have a single family home and it's bigger than my garage.
Well, also it's a two-family home, right? So you have a storage space that's shared. It's not even sectioned off by unit.
So that was my question. Are you sectioning it off by unit? Are they able to lock it? I mean, I'm pretty sure it's not one big open area with everybody putting their stuff.
Yeah, that is a good
downstairs.
question, because if both tenants have access via the exit, how does one tenant protect their goods from another tenant?
There's usually lockers.
Well, or separate
Separate
rooms,
rooms, yeah.
Yeah.
or chain cage.
And this could tie in.
So in my conversations with the applicant, who would be the landlord here, the intention was to not create sections in the room for lack of a better word, but to have something like akin to a locker system in there, to have bike system put into that those bikes could be locked up. Long-term storage could be locked up, but not to necessarily cut up the room to have separate rooms.
What you're saying makes no sense to me.
Well, I understand.
I
that.
understand that, but that's a lot of space for lockers.
Yeah, I think that would be my question. That's a pretty big space.
Oh, the architect was gonna give us the square footage of that room.
Yes, I have it like that, 660 square feet. Approximately.
So I think this could tie in, I think another one of the board's real concerns was the height and the need for a height variance. You know, a lot of the variances here, the setbacks and such sort of relate to the fact that it's a small lot, it's a very undersized lot, but height doesn't.
But height doesn't, right?
So they did provide, the drawing that shows the height of the two adjacent homes.
And with that show.
It's tall, but
It's out of character is what it
Yeah.
shows.
I mean, does it have to
Foundation for
be?
the storage area, that's the reason why the height is not much higher.
It's the fact that they're taking a whole level and not
Yes.
making it housing like the other homes. They're choosing to make it this big open space that the other homes don't have. Or parking.
Which I think in the last meeting, the question that was asked is why is that space not used for garage space?
Right.
Now the decision was made to not use as a garage space and request a variance to park in the front yard and keep that space. Where you were gonna go back and discuss and say, well, we'll consider if we're gonna provide all off-street parking that would be in compliance with the zoning code, and you're choosing not to do that. You're asking for a variance of that.
In the past 3 years, from my recollection, every variance for parking that's been in the front has been because directly behind it was either housing, like literal people's living area, or they didn't have the space to put the cars under the home. And so in those cases, it made sense. In this case, none of those work to your advantage. A, there's not living space behind there, and B, it's a massive space that could be used as a garage space that you're choosing to use as storage space. And in addition to using it as storage space, you have a utility sink and toilet in there, and you're not allowing the tenants the ability to portion off their part of the space to protect their belongings outside of lockers. And if it's lockers, you don't need that much space for lockers. Because you have two families.
If I may interfere a little bit, in the letter that I was asked to provide, the owner stated that he wants to use that space as a miscellaneous storage where they can storage large pieces like bikes or other boxes, large boxes. That's why he didn't have any particular space separated.
Yes. So in
I apologize. When he says miscellaneous storage, is that his storage or tenant's storage?
Tenant.
He says tenants.
It's gonna be storage.
I guess the problem is everyone here is, a very smart adult, and we're being professional with the questions that we're asking, but we're also aware of the fact that variances live with the property, not the owner. So the owner's intent doesn't matter because the variance lives with the property, whether he owns it or not. To have that bottom floor as storage where the tenants have their large boxes, can't lock them up anywhere because you can't put large boxes in a locker. Oh yeah, if you made big areas that were separate and locked off, then that would make sense to me. So, I mean,
I think when he's saying locker, he's talking about big, like locker areas.
Yeah, I
think
don't
that-
necessarily mean like a school locker. I'm talking about lock space within it rather than putting up sheetrock walls dividing the room.
yeah,
up.
like a chain link storage.
Yeah, that's
Something
correct.
akin to that. And then again, in my conversations with the applicant, I fully understand the board's comments regarding it's a large space, right? So the applicant's experience of other homes that he has constructed is that the more and more in these newer construction homes, that's one of the biggest things people ask for is storage space. And then the question is, if we move the garage spaces into that, you lose a significant chunk of it. So I think it was a design decision and an application, a decision by the applicant that in order to provide, in perhaps what might be deemed as excess storage in this case, the alternative was deemed to be perhaps not enough. And again, when I when I say, lockers, I really mean that the space would be able to be, of course, secured by the tenants.
Okay, so
But that-
question.
Yes.
Question for Joe and Linda, are we allowed because that, what happens with that space is part of the decision we're making of whether or not to grant the parking area variances in the front and the height variance, can we condition approval upon they're actually, whether it's in the plans or based on the inspection that's done after they actually put up their areas that are separately locked off? Because that's what they just claimed. Can we condition approval on that?
If it was granted and we issued a permit, obviously we're gonna do inspections to the final. But after that,
Yeah.
there's no way we're gonna be doing inspections on them right at this moment.
No, that's what I'm saying. Can we condition
Until
approval?
what
on
would
that?
happen is
It's an.
it'd be an enforcement.
That's the best that we can do other than not
the
approving.
issue, and I'm gonna speak on the other side of the board, as this is my final determination tonight. I think the problem would be, I know what your intent is, but if you ever sold the building, there's a bathroom down there, there's space down there. Could it potentially be somebody's living quarters and it's large enough to have that happen? And that is where we would kind of double think of what could potentially be down there. Right now, you're telling us storage, but 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line, it could be, somebody else's family living in the basement. And that's a question that, nobody's going to be able to enforce because I'm pretty sure Joe would have retired and the next person is not
Well,
going
it's
to.
illegal.
It becomes
It would
illegal.
still be illegal if the village were to find that somebody was using that as a third living quarter, that would be illegal. But I think you've also got, I think there's a couple of other variances here that the board has expressed concern.
Yes, the height of the building.
Right,
And the height.
yeah,
And
well,
this space
right.
relates to both.
That's correct.
and one of the things we always look at is whether or not the applicant can be achieved by some other feasible method. Well, it strikes me right in the face right away that with the front parking right open in front of the building, right, that you could easily move those into that 600 square foot area.
And still have
Right
storage
there,
space.
And still have storage space,
And
yes.
one area, right there, you fail the criteria.
Right, you get rid of the bathroom, you bring the 2 cars in and you
Yeah.
still got.
So Mike, you're speaking my language. With the 5 factors that we have to go through, the first 2 factors, I feel like this plan fails immediately, which we'll determine when we go through it and speak to them. The first is, will an undesirable change be created in the character of the neighborhood? And I would say yes, because parking in the front yard is not something the village, the reason they wrote the code the way they did is because they do not want that to happen. And we very frequently say no. If we say no to something, that's what we say no to. Number 2 is a detriment. Is it detriment? The second one?
No, the detriment is all part of the first.
Part of the first one. The second one is
The benefit can be achieved.
Achieved
by
by
Oh,
some other method.
benefit can be achieved by some other method.
Right.
It's yes, you can get both storage in the back half where the cars won't fit or the back third and have the 2 cars in the front. So
Right,
that's a major one that you fail. Environmental dependent could be anything depending on impervious surface coverage
Right,
or
well, that was another issue that
Yeah.
the board had at the last meeting.
right.
Impervious surface.
and that's 3 of the 5. And then problem self-created, which is not determinative in and of itself, is also, yes, this is a self-created issue. Because while this lot is short or thin, like many of them are, we approve things all the time that make sense and
Right.
fit the other variables. So that's 4 out of the 5.
And they're substantial.
And there's
There's
substantial. So,
We haven't even talked about the fact that the cars parked out front are also right against the property line.
yeah,
Rear.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that if there was any way to look at the plans to move the parking into that 600 square foot area, it would eliminate some of the issues that we're having with the parking. But it also looks at, I was looking at the height of that whole, if you're talking just structure, does it have to be as tall? Does it have to be as big? So that if they, like, there's some, I think, happy medium of bringing it down a little bit, of looking at the neighborhood, what are the height of the other buildings?
What are the ceiling?
What are
heights?
the ceiling heights, does it have to be 3-bedroom apartments? Like, there was a whole lot of things that kind of struck me as maybe we could talk about how we can, you know, is there a way to make this work? If you come back and say no, then, you know, we'd have to work, well, not we, but they.
So-
To figure it out, based on what you said, but I would really, I think as, for me, I would really like to see if there's another way to make this work.
With fewer
So if I could just,
With
briefly.
fewer variances.
Just briefly, as it relates to the moving the parking inside, because I fully appreciate the board's concern about, 10 years from now, the applicant sells the property, it's a large space. I fully can appreciate that. Eduardo, from a design perspective, I just want to make sure I'm not missing anything. What else, is there anything additional we're losing by if we were to move that, basically cut into that storage space by using that as garage? And then secondly, from a design point, am I correct that bathroom is not essential to us?
Well, usually when the owners go to their properties, they like to have their own restroom there. And sometimes in other properties, they have bars because they can have a drink or so and use the bathroom. That's what I've seen before. So that's the purpose of having some, because they like to visit the property, keep it well kept. And that's the only reason. The other thing that you can extend the two parking spaces into that area, I think that would be up to the owner. The owner wanted that way, so that's what we provided.
So what I would propose to the board, if possible, if I could have the opportunity to speak to the applicant after the meeting about two things. One, getting rid of the bathroom, and two, moving the garage space in as suggested. I just want to get a sense from him if that's something's feasible. Again, he reached these decisions based on other projects he has done and what has had success and what tenants have looked for and asked for. But I would like that opportunity to run through that with him and see if that could be accommodated, because I think that would get rid of any concern about future down the line, what the space would be used for after he is gone or sells the property. And then also could alleviate some of the issue having to do with the parking, as well as just the scope of the space.
So what, oh, sorry, it's your last meeting. You can,
So can I just ask if they wanted to have, and I'm gonna say a washroom down in that area, does it have to be where it sits? Because if you have a boiler room and you actually put it adjacent on the other side of the boiler room, you could still have somewhere for the applicant, for the owner to go in and, if they needed to clean up, or if somebody came in and they wanted to, they actually were
Also
running
combine the utility sink
into the bathroom, right? So, like, I'm just looking at where you have it situated.
Yeah.
That if you moved everything closer to the back wall, that you actually have the space to do that there and still have space to put in a car or two.
so these
And
are,
storage, right? So I'm thinking that you really need to rethink this space in a different way, so that it just makes it a little bit more user-friendly, and you're not coming with large variances if at all possible.
so, and I think something important to add to what Marlene said, which is she's offering an opportunity, which we will do, what you guys have had to come back with a change, is we can't promise you we're going to vote a certain way.
Oh, understood.
Changes are made. But if I were to guess, if we voted on this today as is, it would probably be a negative. So
No, I
that's
understand.
that's what the owner is up against. And so I just want to make sure it's not just moving the sink. It's about moving the parking inside to justify the height of the building.
Yep.
And possibly considering an alternative to a 3-bedroom, something that shrinks the size of the variances needed, because the 5 factors just don't line up now.
And the building height, is there anything that shows what the ceiling heights are or anything, how to get that building height? Maybe go back up to that.
If he showed, yeah.
Is a representation of the two adjacent buildings still or not? In terms of their
So
height?
that's what I don't see. Yeah.
If I may add too, I would also like some clarity and like when you discuss this with the applicant, a final decision as to whether or not he is going to have personal use of any part of that space. Because first it was yes, then it was no, and then when Eduardo was talking, he was talking about, you know, the owner might want to go in there and wash up and have a drink, and we're kind of in this gray area about whether or not any portion of that space will be for personal use of the landlord or the property owner. And I would just, when you come back, I would like a definitive answer as to, is there going to be any personal use or not?
Understood.
agree
In
with all
addition to the plan revisions that I mentioned, I'm gonna have, just to crystallize this for the board and put it in writing, I'm gonna have the applicant submit a letter, exactly laying out his intention, because, again, I think what's meant is that when, you know, when the landlord would go there, that he would have, you know, if doing some repairs, having the bathroom there, it has been beneficial on other properties. But again, I want to speak to him whether or not we can eliminate it to satisfy at least some of the concern there, which would then allow us to, I understandably go into that space with the cars and possibly try and shrink this down to a more palatable application that makes sense and could be possible.
Mr. Veneruso, do you know what the ceiling heights are of the living areas?
Especially on the upper floor.
Eduardo, do you have the ceiling heights on those? Let me see if I have them.
The ceiling height on
Oh, you have
the
them?
back of the building, on the first floor is 8 feet. And the difference on the ground against the garage, it's about 3 foot 6. Because remember that the ground is a high ground that in the middle, from the front to the back is very high. It's about 5 feet high from the street level.
No, so
I believe
inside the
there's
apartments,
the roof line has a slope from the front to the back. So is the front portion of the building on the top floor have a higher ceiling? Or is that all just attic space?
No, just the front part where the garages are. Because we have to dig in to have a lower,
it's not understanding.
If you
So-
pull up the elevation, you can see from the side elevation.
and see from the ground, from the middle of ground to the middle of the roof is about 32 foot 6 high.
Maybe the other way.
Yeah, but there's no numbers.
No, there's.
So
Yeah, keep scroll down. Keep going. Keep going. Right there. So the front portion of the building, you see how the roof is higher than it is in the back. So the question is the living space on the top floor have a higher ceiling, or is that space up there all attic storage?
Again,
No,
that's
that's
not
not
a concern. It's clearly higher than the adjacent buildings. We're trying to
Is
understand.
that due to
That's
the
just-
topography of the land, or is that due to?
1.6 parapet all around. You can see the line of the roof. The sloping roof to the back.
So the question is the space above the third floor, call it the third floor, is that all storage attic space?
There's no storage over there. There's just a slope area from the roof.
Not like HVAC or?
What's happening in here? What's happening in this section here?
And why is it needed? Because that's what's causing you to need the height
You
variance.
see, the dotted line over there is the top of the roof, and I think we're having 2x10s. So we have the joists, the roof rafters. All right, so it's just a minimum space in between the ceiling height and the joist.
What's the ceiling height?
The ceiling height is 8 feet, and all the spaces are 8 feet high.
So why does the space up top above the top apartment need to be that large?
Well,
We're trying
because
to,
of
we're
the
trying to help you
floor.
reduce your variance.
Yeah, I see that, I see that there's a large space up in the front, but it's just giving up slope to, for the water to run out. I can lower that part, no problem.
Yeah, well, again, you need to be cognizant of what the zoning requires, and this plan seems to have been developed without really trying to be zoning compliant.
Yep, nothing that can be done.
So just to recap, and maybe someone can add on if I missed something, the things that we have suggested as a consideration, again, no promises. We can't tell you how we're going to vote the next time you come back. But things that we are looking at are reducing that ceiling height of that empty space up top because that's causing a substantial increase of the height. We're looking at cars being moved further into the space so that they're not encroaching on the sidewalk, and you don't need, hopefully the idea premise is that you don't need that variance. Moving the toilet potentially into the utility room or having the toilet include the utility sink.
Right.
The cars get into the.
Well, no, that would, yeah, it would force them to move it to put the cars in the garage. The letter from the owner stating their intentions for use of that space. Is that it?
Why do they need an attic if they have storage in the basement?
Well, that was where I was going with my question. Is that storage attic space up there for, say, the tenant on the second floor? Then
But even
you
if,
said no.
even if it's not, why have it that tall?
Yeah,
Why have it that tall though? Because it's on their plans.
Shows us
Yeah,
What's above
the
there?
interior heights.
well, let's go back to those, bricks that are shown on the front facade there. On the previous drawing there.
Maddie, sorry.
Sorry, Maddie.
I mean, no, keep going down. That's the one, I'm sorry, go up a little bit. See, each one of those yellow bricks there, I mean, there's no measurements on them, but I would say each probably be a foot in sight, so it's like 5 feet attic in the front.
Right.
Let's see,
That's-
that's
that
8
was my
feet.
question.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, they're almost a foot tall each. They're probably like 10 inches.
Yeah. So why you need a 5-foot attic?
That's another question. How would you access up in that attic? There's no access in there at all?
No,
So it's just sort of
Dead
dead
space.
space, that's causing the
That's
height to be that much
definitely.
more non-compliant.
Right, so why do you need that?
I mean, when I first saw the slope, I assumed it was for water runoff.
Yeah.
But I don't want to make assumptions, which is why we
That's
asked
more
the
than you
question.
need.
Yeah.
But that's more than you need.
Right.
That's my
And I also
understanding.
asked I don't know if they've got central air or if they need, air ducts. up
Well,
there,
that's
like-
all in the
And the basement.
basement.
Gotcha.
Yeah, the
No
mechanicals,
access into the attic.
that none of that stuff is in the attic. I'll talk to the design team to figure out. I believe it was done for water runoff.
So then
purposes,
I guess
but-
my other question was, and this would be my question, and this is my question for you. If they had access into the attic and the upper apartment used the attic for their storage and their additional things, and the people in the basement, could you have a smaller area? Then you're also talking about a smaller storage area in the bottom level.
I think you'd rather see the height reduced and let them share whatever's left. of
There's still a
Ah.
lot of space for storage at
Yeah,
the end of
still a lot
that.
Space, space.
What is the what's the square footage of each apartment?
They're big units.
You're good.
I take it this applicant was posted. Is there anybody, are we to get to that point where anybody's here to see?
No,
No.
they were the last two
They were
in.
the last.
So the square footage of each
Me,
apartment is, what is the square footage? I guess it should be on the zoning worksheet, right?
yes.
Uh,
Hang it out.
I can go to that if you want. Well, now you know we're not faking it.
They are 1,100 square
That's
feet.
right.
1120.
That's how I got.
Almost, that's just like almost as big as my townhouse.
And that would be fine if it could fit within the zone.
Right.
Mhm.
Well, that's,
And I think this board, in terms of the setback variances. That's, you haven't made a huge issue out of those.
It's
It's
the
an
height.
undersized lot, it's a narrow lot,
Right.
but I think the height and then the other thing we haven't talked about that you talked about a little bit last time is the impervious coverage, and I know they talked about looking at some use of impervious pavers. Or expressed a desire, some of it was Corey, who's not here, for some grass.
Right.
So one thing, when I do speak to the applicant regarding perhaps moving those vehicles forward, that I was gonna bring that up, perhaps that that will be looked at in the potential to minimize that variance regarding the impervious. We'll check that if in tandem with the conversation about moving the vehicles.
So do you have any clarifying questions for things that we were suggesting might be beneficial to you to?
No, I fully understand the board's concerns. I'll talk to the design professional as well as the applicant and address those concerns as needed in writing and then at the next meeting as well.
Right.
Okay.
I mean, you see, there's a lot of variances here. Some of them are big and significant. I think this board's made it clear which ones are of the greatest concern.
Yeah, no, I understand. And I appreciate those comments. I'll work with the applicant and the design professional to see what we can do to minimize and if any can be removed completely based upon the comments tonight.
All right. Thank you.
So may I make a motion to adjourn the public hearing?
We haven't opened it yet,
Oh,
but
well,
there's no one here. So
I have to make a motion to open and close the public hearing,
There being no one present.
being no one present.
Yeah, don't close it.
Oh, to
Open
adjourn.
and-
can we get a
Adjourn.
motion to open the public hearing?
So moved, Brian.
Second,
Is there anyone here to speak on this application?
no.
There's nobody online. I know there's no one here except for the trustee who I don't think
Can't-
wants to speak on it.
Not allowed.
Could I get a motion to adjourn this public hearing?
Motion to adjourn, open.
Second,
All right. Hearing no objections, the public hearing is now adjourned. All right, hearing none.
Thank you.
So thank you so much. And
wait. We need a motion to adjourn this,
we have to adjourn the application.
Yes.
the
Could
application.
I get a motion
So-
to adjourn application ZBA 08-2024?
Marlene has to.
Oh,
Yes,
sorry.
I'd like to make that motion to adjourn as my last thing that I do today. This evening.
So moved, okay.
Seconded, Kyle.
Do we need to do a roll call? No? Okay.
No?
No,
If there's no
If there-
objection,
if there's no objections. All right, this is adjourned until our next regularly scheduled meeting, which is not in August, it is in September. Just so the applicant is aware.
The board does not need to talk.
so you have some time to work on this.
Yes, thank you.
There's nobody here for the other adjourned matter, so that's the end of our meeting. I hope if I could get a motion to close the meeting.
Yes.
Thank you and good night.
It was
Thank you.
Thank you.
so moved by Marlene,
Seconded, Brian.
seconded by Brian. If there are no objections, the meeting is now closed. Hearing none, we are closed. Thank you.
Yes, yes.
Wow.
Thank you.
Thank you.